Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something we probably all deal with, traffic.
Oh, yeah.
But we're not just talking about being stuck in jams. We're exploring a really interesting comparison based on this source we've got, looking at traffic in Pakistan versus, well, other places around the globe.
Exactly. And what's fascinating, is that it's not just about, say, better roads or signals. The source has this really lively, sometimes quite funny take on the behavioral differences. We see these anecdotes from Pakistan right alongside descriptions from Germany, Japan, Canada, the UAE.
Right. It really hooks you in. It mentions, sort of cheekily, that traffic signals in Pakistan can feel like they're just for decoration.
Mhm.
And the sound of horns, that's described as almost a daily greeting.
Yeah.
Then it jumps into these, well, vivid descriptions, like the ching chi.
Ah, yes, the three-wheel rickshaw is a very common sight.
Exactly. And the source says they move like they're trying to qualify for the final. It really paints a picture.
It does. And the way pedestrians and motorcyclists are described,
Mhm.
wow. It says pedestrians are trying to save lives in a game, just crossing the street.
Yeah.
And the motorcyclists always trying to squeeze through, get out of one side and touch the sky from the other, as the source puts it. It sounds, well, pretty chaotic.
It definitely gives that impression. It even touches on the police, suggesting sometimes they might be more focused on selfies and standing in the shade than, actually directing things.
Which is quite an observation. It makes you think about how effective the rules feel on the ground.
Totally.
And then the source really shifts gears and contrasts this sharply with traffic in some other developed nations, like Germany.
Ah, the Autobahn.
Right, famous for having no speed limits in places. But the source points out there's still this strong general following of other traffic laws.
Yeah.
It's an interesting mix of freedom and, well, discipline.
And then Japan. That sounds like the other end of the spectrum almost.
It really does. The source highlights pedestrians stopping at red lights even if the road is completely empty.
Wow. Just out of habit or respect for the system itself.
It suggests a really deep respect for the system, yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's just what you do.
Okay. And Canada, what's the angle there?
In Canada, the source notes that not giving way, not yielding, isn't just illegal. It's seen as sort of a moral lapse.
So it's about courtesy, too.
Very much so. It hints at this societal value
Hmm.
placed on, looking out for each other in shared spaces.
Interesting. And the last one mentioned was Dubai.
Yeah, Dubai and the UAE,
Mhm.
described as having these shiny roads, very clear lanes, and really strict enforcement. Immediate fines or challenge if you overtake improperly at a crossing, for example.
Sounds very controlled.
Highly controlled, yeah. But here's the thing. The source argues that these differences, they go deeper than just infrastructure or how strict the fines are.
Okay.
It argues the real core difference is about national training and, maybe most importantly, the overall mindset.
Right, the mindset. Let's get into that. The source seems to suggest a kind of my turn first thinking in Pakistan versus maybe more established values of order, civilization, and patience elsewhere. Is that fair?
That's the argument it puts forward, yeah. A shift from me first to a more collective approach.
What do you think drives that my turn first idea, though? The source doesn't really say, does it? Could it be, I don't know, population pressure, a feeling of scarcity?
That's a really good question. And no, the source doesn't explicitly explore those root causes, but it definitely makes you wonder. Maybe in places with intense competition for space, that instinct just becomes stronger.
Whereas maybe in societies with more established systems or social trust, cooperation feels more natural.
Possibly. It seems plausible. And this ties into how people view the law itself.
How so?
Well, the source contrasts this deep respect for rules you see in, say, Japan with what it describes in Pakistan as a tendency to look for tricks to avoid challenge.
Ah, so gaming the system rather than buying into it.
Kind of, yeah. Focusing on avoiding the penalty rather than internalizing the rule's purpose, which is usually safety.
Right.
And that's where the national training idea comes back in. The source makes a point comparing this to countries where kids learn traffic safety really young.
So it becomes second nature.
Exactly. It's not just about knowing the rules. It's about understanding why they matter.
Yeah,
That it's about everyone getting there safely, not just you getting there fast.
that makes a lot of sense. Arriving versus arriving safely, big difference. So, okay, the source lays out these contrasts, this mindset issue. Does it offer any solutions for Pakistan?
It does. It proposes four main things, actually. First up is education, specifically traffic education.
Seems foundational.
Very much so. You need to build that awareness, those habits, right from the start.
Okay, what else?
Then, strict and consistent law enforcement. Having rules is one thing.
But they need teeth, and people need to know they'll be applied fairly.
Precisely. Consistency builds respect for the rules and acts as a real deterrent. Without it, yeah, rules can start to feel optional.
Makes sense. What's number 3?
Using technology more.
Really?
Things like a digital challenge system, camera monitoring, basically ways to increase accountability and make it harder to just, you know, talk your way out of a fine or rely on loopholes.
Okay. Education, enforcement, technology.
hmm
What's the last one?
And this is maybe the most crucial, according to the source, a real change in intention and behavior on an individual level.
So back to the mindset again.
Yeah.
Technology and police can only do so much.
Exactly. The framework matters, but people's choices within that framework create the culture. And the source drives this home with a pretty pointed question.
Which
It asks, if parents are running red lights with their kids in the car, what lesson is that teaching? How can you expect the next generation to respect the rules?
Oof, yeah, that's powerful. Leading by example or not. Thinking about this, it really does resonate. Whether you've traveled or just noticed things in your own city, you see these patterns and you realize it's not just random. It reflects something deeper about maybe cultural priorities or norms.
Absolutely. And understanding these traffic differences, it gives you a lens, doesn't it? Not just on traffic, but maybe on broader societal values, how different places handle shared resources and responsibilities.
So wrapping up our deep dive here, the big takeaway from the source seems to be this stark contrast, not just in roads, but in attitudes.
Right. The argument is strong. Mindset, those ingrained values about order, patience, respect, might actually matter more than just the infrastructure.
And the path forward. It looks like it needs a bit of everything. Education, consistent enforcement, smarter tech.
But fundamentally, it comes down to individual drivers choosing to act differently.
Yeah. And the source actually has this direct call to action at the end, doesn't it?
It does. It encourages people to, and I quote, honk less, respect the lane, and consider it your honor to yield to others. Little things, maybe, but potentially adding up.
Which leaves us with a final thought, perhaps. If individual choices can shape something as big and messy as city traffic, what other small, everyday actions might be having these huge, unseen ripple effects across our society? Something to definitely chew on.